On behalf of Centro Tacoma, Tacoma Art Museum, the board of directors of Centro, the director of Centro, Dr. Baca, and all the staff of Centro, I would like to welcome you to our Dia de los Muertos Ofrenda and our altar, and provide you with some background information about Dia de los Muertos and the Ofrenda that we hope all of you will visit online, that is located here in Tacoma, Washington, at the Centro organization. First and foremost, beyond the thanking of all the individuals that made this possible here at Centro, I want to thank the Tacoma Art Museum for their amazing help and support, especially with the construction or the support of the construction for the tapete that was done by the world-class artist Fulgencio, who is a state treasure here in the state of Washington, who's known around the world for his incredible artistic talent. He is an amazing expert, not only on Day of the Dead, but on many of the artistic symbols that Day of the Dead entails. What I'd like to do with this very brief presentation is provide you with some historical and cultural background of what Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos is. And I would also like to then explain to you how the construction of the ofrenda or the altar here in Tacoma was made possible. And also, in the end, let's take a guided tour of this amazing ofrenda and tapete here at Centro in Tacoma. Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is celebrated mostly in Mexico, where it has its origin, but also can be found in many countries, Spanish-speaking countries throughout the world. And it also is common now in the United States, where this particular celebration has transformed, as things usually do across borders, to something that's very special here in communities throughout the United States. And Tacoma is a perfect example of the confluence of how these things occur, the sharing of ideas, the developing of new ideas, and the presentation of what is special of the heart and soul of the Mexican people in their beliefs, especially in this important time of any people, that is, understanding life and death in the interaction. Dia de Muertos has a deep and profound history in Mexico. It finds its origin primarily in its Indian past, more specifically to the Aztec, Mixtec, and other Indian groups that were here in the Americas long before the Spanish ever arrived. But these two cultures did combine, and we'll explain that a little bit later. But when the Spanish did get here in the Americas, what they found was a flourishing life of an amazing intellectual capability, extremely important cultural innovations, artistic innovations, mathematical innovations, and a religion that was steeped profoundly in the cult of death. The belief among the pre-Columbian Aztec and Mixtec and other native peoples of the Americas was that without death there couldn't be life. So that in order for the sun to rise the next day, there had to be the sacrifice of human life to create life here on earth for us as we know it. But when the Spanish saw this, they were not too happy about it. And so the culture clash that occurred between the Spanish and the native peoples really was one of religion, of culture, of food, and the understanding of what life meant. And so in order to fulfill its duties, the Spanish as they came through in the conquering of the native peoples of the New World, sought to try to eliminate as much as possible the native beliefs in the native ideas of religion and of life and death. And it was extremely important that they superimpose the ideas of life and death as they knew it with Catholic beliefs. It's not a far stretch, however, so that the death of Christ, Jesus Christ, in the Catholic faith, who died for the sins of humanity and was the Redeemer of humanity according to Catholic faith, he died, and it was his blood that was sacrificed, and it's his blood that is sacrificed in every single Catholic Mass. And so the stretch from that to get the natives to believe in that not everybody, not a high number of people, not everybody, excuse me, but not a large number of people had to be sacrificed. In some ceremonies, as many as 10,000 native peoples were sacrificed in one ceremony to give honorings and offerings to the gods for this celestial event to take place, which was called daylight from night, and so life from death. And so with that, the Spanish influenced the native belief by trying to convince them that this type of sacrifice was not necessary, and that they only had to believe in the symbolic sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And so they chose 2 dates to honor the dead in the Catholic faith. One was All Souls Day and All Saints Day, which occur every November 1st and 2nd. And hence, those are the days that are celebrated Dia de los Muertos. And so with the merging of these two cultures and these two understanding, we'll now step from that idea of the historical and cultural background to what we do today in relationship to building an ofrenda and meeting the needs that both are understood by the native people, who in essence adopted the Catholic days but still maintained their native beliefs in what the soul meant. So everything until this day isn't all what it appears on the surface. You essentially have two religious ideas merged into one. And so this is a perfect time, Dia de los Muertos, understanding of how the soul is treated, what the beliefs are in when somebody dies and in the death of that person, and in the ability in this holiday, this special holiday, this unique holiday in Mexico, not a holiday, but a festival in Mexico, where the souls are coaxed back to the world and they're remembered. So it's a positive day. This is not Halloween. It's a positive celebration of how people live their lives. It's a celebration of the ancestors you love, your mothers, your fathers, your grandfathers, or children who passed on to the other side. And so this day, it's not met with sadness. It's not met with gloom. It's not the Halloween festival where there's goblins, etc. It is a holiday where each and every soul of the remembered deceased are coaxed back in using the altar or the ofrenda, so that the relatives can spend a special day, 1 day, 2 days, a year, with their loved ones, remembering, sharing ideas, sharing the food, sharing the things that those deceased most liked. And so we build these altars, almost like a runway so that these souls can find their way back to the earth and land back with the family, spend time with the family in their home, at the gravesite, in their communities that they know, and with the people that they loved. And so the building of the altar really is a very special undertaking, and there are some extremely traditional things, components or symbols that take place in the building of these altars. And you will see in the altar that Centro has, that we've done in coordination with Florencio, the artist who built the tapete, and in coordination with Tacoma Art Museum. You'll see these symbols that we used to bring the memory of those people that lost their lives in COVID, because of COVID, those individuals who lost their lives because they were abused by a partner, and spend this time recognizing it. Let us coax them to our altar. Let's give them a celestial hug, a symbolic hug. And to do that, the building the altar, really, I'll give you the process that we use in order to entice these souls back. We put on this altar food that the individuals or individual most liked while they were alive on the earth. Maybe it was a plate of enchiladas. Maybe it was a certain type of chili relleno, or maybe it was a hamburger or a hot dog that they especially liked. It was a certain type of sopa or soup that they had every evening. Chilequiles for breakfast. So those are the type of things that you would put on the table. But you also want to put the most precious delights, whatever a family could afford. You would put mangoes, if they like mangoes. You would put bananas, apples, oranges, and other items that the sweetness and the aroma would attract these individuals. So as we put the food, it's not as if the soul is going to come and take the bite out of the apple. That's not going to happen. But what will happen is the aroma of the food, maybe the chilequiles, maybe it'll be a mango or a papaya that's opened on a plate on the altar. And the soul will come back and take pleasure in partaking of the smell, of the essence of these favorite foods. So, you know, sweet candies, calaveras made of sugar, breads, especially pan de los muertos, which is made during this period of time and put on the ofrenda, put on the altar, is that symbolic thing, a sweet bread that they really are attracted to. So again, it's the smell of these foods. It's also important to include photos or a photo of the deceased. This is a reminder not only to the family, but it's a reminder to them that the family still believes in them, still loves them, still cherishes the thought of who they were and what they participated together with while they were on this earth. So don't forget the personal photo. And you're welcome to bring your photos to Centro, and we will put them on the altar if you care to do so. You'll see flowers on the ofrenda, and flowers symbolically put in the tapete. And the reason for the flowers is the smell of the marigold, which is a flower that's in season in Mexico at this time. Beautiful, bright orange flower. The smell of that flower attracts these souls, and it guides these souls. It gives them, if you think of it sort of like an antenna that brings down a signal, these flowers serve as that purpose. So lots of flowers, marigolds if you have them, and you will see in our ofrenda that we have many of those. Candles. Candles light the way, even for the souls, to show recognition. But remember, candles also have a symbolic meaning in life and death in the Catholic religion. So you will see lots of candles that are offered at this time. You put salt on the ofrenda, or at the table of this ofrenda. And the salt helps in the soul in their journey, and attracts them in their journey as they eat their food, or don't eat it, but eat it symbolically. And it's important to have water on the ofrenda so that they can quench their thirst from this enormously long, long journey from the other world to this world. And so finally, you'll find Catholic religious symbols. You'll find the Virgen de Guadalupe, very common. You'll see a beautiful Virgen de Guadalupe on this altar, and several other religious symbols that are symbols of the Catholic faith, whether it be a symbol of Christ or the Virgin Mary, or a specific saint or santo that was specifically venerated by the dead people or the dead person who are going to come and visit this ofrenda as a soul. Many times in the Catholic belief system, you're born, say, in the month of June, so your patron saint would be San Antonio. You would put a San Antonio on the altar, again, to remind them and to guide them. So now let's take a very brief view at our altar. Again, I want to thank all of you that have remained with me through this presentation. But to see this altar, even though it's virtually, that you're going to visit it, will bring you to a better understanding, hopefully, of the richness of this particular event. You will see who we dedicated this altar to, the victims of COVID, the sadness that's related to that, but the happiness of them returning back in their souls to remind us of who they were, and for us to remind ourselves and them how much we miss them and love them. And then we at Mi Centro have dedicated our mission, part of our mission, to the protection of domestic violence. And we know that domestic violence is something that occurs all too frequently. And if anybody has died of that, we want to recognize that unfortunate event, and that those souls forever be at peace, forever be remembered. Again, pay particular attention to the color, the rich colors of the tapete that was made specifically for Mi Centro and Tacoma Art Museum, and that Florencio has spent many, many hours putting grains of sand and coloring together to create an amazing runway for the souls to find their place back on earth. But just simple things like the fruit that we put on the ofrenda, the paper cutouts, which are so beautiful, which are signal the wind. And so if you see the paper cutouts, papel picado, which it's called in Spanish, the papel picado, if it waves a little bit, you begin to see or feel that the soul is there, and it's a reminder of that. And these beautiful cutouts are part of our ofrenda. And you'll see also, individual things that some of the individuals who have left this world brought too, whether it be a guitar because they left music, or these amazing Virgen de Guadalupe boots that are on the ofrenda because they love so much to dance in those boots and show off that they were fortunate enough to have these amazing and colorful boots. So thanks again to all those who sponsored this, that helped through this, the staff, to Dr. Baca, to our two amazing volunteers who helped put this up from the board of directors. That's Molly and David Artis, who just gave hours and hours and hours putting this together. And I want to thank them personally, and I want to let each and everybody know that this day is a special day to us. Mi Centro is a special organization, and we are honored to work with the Tacoma Art Museum to bring to you Dia de los Muertos in Tacoma, authentic and from our heart. Thank you very much. We wish you a most rewarding Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. Thank you.